Hey, good people, how y'all doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be giving you all my review on Love and Marriage Huntsville, Season 6, Episode 19. Let's go. So, guys, Marsau is one of the biggest hypocrites I have ever seen in my life. Matter of fact, no. He's one of the biggest hypocrites I have ever seen on reality TV. The fact that he sat himself up there while meeting with Nell and had the nerve to talk about her bankruptcy when he in fact filed bankruptcy too is freaking crazy to me. Like, if you're going to take a dig at somebody, maybe make sure that there's nothing going on in your life that they can use to go right back at you, especially when you guys went through the same procedure, a bankruptcy. The difference, as Melody pointed out to him, is she went through a bankruptcy not because her finances weren't together. She went through it because she was getting a divorce from her husband and she did not want him to leave her with a bag that she would have to be responsible for paying. So she leveled herself up. You know, bankruptcy is not good, period. But she did what she had to do to make sure that she was straight so that she didn't have to worry about taking on any of his debt. Whereas Marsau apparently filed bankruptcy because he doesn't know how to manage his money properly. When I tell you there were so many instances in this conversation where Melody just completely shut him down, the whole thing about the t-shirts, like, how are you coming for her business, once again being a hypocrite, when a part of your business is selling merchandise as well? That just blows my mind. Like, dude, 99% of the stuff that this man says on this show makes absolutely no sense to me. And I think that people want to say, oh, he's great, oh, he's very business savvy and this, that, and the third. That's what he wants you to believe about himself, when in all actuality, no, that's not who he is. And we saw that based upon how they handled the whole Black Expo. Let's go back to the Stormi situation. I know we're kind of beating a dead horse with this, but how are you going to ask somebody for $100 the day of and you never mentioned this before? Later on in the episode, when they go over some of the things that they could have improved with the Black Expo, that's people, by the way, giving the Scots feedback, not the Scots giving themselves feedback. There were things like, listen, you should have had handouts, tangible things, phone numbers for people to contact so that they can build upon their businesses. Like, the fact that you didn't have any of that, how is that a well-run business? What's going on with this dream house that you and your wife are supposed to be building? Like, dude, what happened to that? He's just not as smart as he originally came on and tried to make it seem. And it takes somebody like Melody who could match his energy, but she's just way smarter. Let's just be real, to put him in his place. And if there's anybody on the show that can do that, she's definitely that girl. Okay, she proved it right then and there. Marsau had nothing to say in defense of the things that she was saying to him. When she sat up there and said she could have questioned whether or not she wanted to be a part of their expo when they have a $5 million lawsuit against them, and he didn't have any comeback, like nothing. And you know the type of mouth that he has. That says it all. And by the way, that's another example of why this man isn't as business savvy, nor is he as smart as he would like for us to believe. Now, I know people get sued all the time, but I would not be surprised if he is found at fault. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's move along. Let's talk about Tiffany and Lou, because I just feel like Tiffany is one of the most manipulative people. The way that she tried to express herself, I guess, to her husband, she did it all the way wrong. Now, I want to start this off by saying I have been through postpartum depression. My experience with it was, dag, I didn't know that that's what it was until after the fact. For me, going through it, I didn't know initially like what was wrong with me. I just didn't. I feel for her because I know what it's like to be in that situation. With that being said, I did not understand for the life of me what her point was to her husband, because she talks about this vision that she had of what her life would be like when the baby came. And to be quite honest, her vision is just not something that is realistic. Babies are a blessing, don't get me wrong, but when you have children, they kind of shake up your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes you a minute to kind of get your footing, get your bearings back. So the fact that she thought she was just going to drop this baby and everything was going to be well is crazy to me. I think that she thought that Lewis was going to stay home and be the Lewis that he was when she was pregnant. Because if you guys remember, when she was pregnant, she needed to stay off of her feet. There was a period of time where her doctor was like, you need to go sit down somewhere. I think that period of time in their lives, going through what she went through, he definitely stepped up like 1,000%. And she thought that when that baby came, he was still going to be doing the same stuff that he was doing when she was pregnant. But he was like, nah, I got to get out here and work because now I have another mouth I have to feed. I know some people think, oh, it's weird that he got a job all of a sudden when the baby came. I don't think that it's weird. I think that he's trying to be a provider for his family. I believe that he is present. I just do not believe that he's present in the way that Tiffany would like for him to be. Personally speaking, I have never seen somebody's spouse complain about them working when they're providing for their family. There should be no complaint. Like, you have to do a give and take. Do you want these bills to be paid or do you want me to be home? Do you want a roof over your head or do you want me to be around you? Like, what? Come on, make it make sense. She was saying things like, well, I kind of think because of your lack of relationship with your father, you're going to have that same relationship with Ace. To me, that was a low blow because Lewis's father not being there, as far as I can recall, when he did talk about it a little bit, and he got really emotional when he talked about his father, was his father's choice not to be there. He was an absentee father. He just did not come around. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong with that. Lewis is living under the same roof as you, honey. Like, he's present. And like he said, my son is not going to remember that I was out there working and he's only like 3 months old. Like, girl, for real? He was like, I was going through this with my dad when I was 10. And he could have made a way to be there and he just wasn't there. Then she talked about, it's a lot for me to be doing. I have to figure out the groceries. I have to figure out the house. I have to figure out the other kids. Girl, what did you think this was going to be? My thing with her is just, you're just throwing out so many different things and you're taking jabs and digs at him when you say stuff like, I'm glad you found the time where you could be around us and this, that, and the third. To me, it was just ridiculous. Here I am with this argument, but I did find it weird that he paid absolutely no attention to his son while they were on this picnic. Tiffany had him. She was nursing him. She laid him down on the ground. She laid him down on the ground for the picnic. He didn't even look at the baby. I'm just like, what's that about? Who knows? Finally, let's move on to this meeting that they all had for the Scotts to get some constructive criticism about what happened with their Black Expo. So it's Tisha, Marsau, Kimmy, Maurice, Stormi and her husband Courtney, Martell, Tiffany, and Melody. Tisha was sitting up at that table quiet as a mouse. The only time that she had anything to say was when Melody said that she felt like it was a little bit disorganized. And all of a sudden, she got activated and had something to say. But for everybody else's comments, including Stormi on at least 2 different occasions, calling Marsau a bitch, Tisha had absolutely nothing to say. It was only when Melody said something that she opened up her mouth. Her husband was sitting there trying to play Tiffany, talking about he knows that she's used to feeling unvalued. That's an unnecessary dig. He wasn't even calling Stormi by name. And to be honest, I can't even be too upset with how he was responding to Stormi, for the simple fact that when she got there, she did not acknowledge him at all. So that's fine. I'm not even tripping off of that. But my point is, he was saying a lot of belittling things to those people sitting at that table. And Tisha said not a mumbling word, only when Mel had something to say, which lets me believe that Tisha, there's some jealousy, there's something there. I don't know exactly what it is because I thought that her and Mel were in a good place, but clearly Tisha does not feel the same way. I don't know if it's because Marsau had mentioned that he and Melody went out to lunch and maybe she didn't know. I kind of was under the impression that she knew. But I know a lot of people are saying online, based upon her response, it looks like maybe she didn't know. I don't know what it was, okay? But I just found that to be very interesting. Again, Stormi sitting there calling Marsau a bitch. I thought that was hilarious. I really did. She gave me a good laugh. I think that what she's saying about Marsau is warranted because he has been acting exactly how she's described him to be. And the fact that he was willing to be as petty as she was and really show his behind lets me know that maybe that's what he is. I would have liked to have seen Stormi call him out more about this whole $100 thing and how that was very unprofessional on his part. But I'm okay with her saying what she had to say to him because I think Marsau gets away with too much as it relates to these women. It's clear and evident he has no respect for women. He does not value anything that they bring to the table. The fact that his wife sat right beside him and said nothing as if he told her you need to be on mute like she's at a Beyonce concert until this meeting is over is crazy to me. But that's how they roll in their relationship. I want to give Martell a shout out because the fact that he stood up there and defended Melody is admirable. And I know he doesn't deserve any admiration based upon his antics both on and off the show, but he had his ex wife's back. And I feel like he had her back because for him, it's like, I could talk about her all I want and say that she's evil, she's this, that, and the third, but I refuse to sit in a room and let somebody else try to play her accomplishments or anything like that. That's how I see Martell when it comes to Melody. Because this is not the first time that we've seen him defend her when somebody's trying to say something bad about her. He could say whatever he wants, but he's not going to allow somebody else to say it in his presence. And there was nothing that he was saying that was a lie. I also want to say something about Maurice because Courtney said something along the lines of he and his wife will not be a part of anything that the Scotts do moving forward or something like that. And Maurice chimed in and was like, well, why not? Dude, were you not sitting at the meeting and heard everything that went down? Has your wife not been filling you in on what's been going on between your brother and Stormi? Because I certainly have seen her do that on the show. So you're well aware of why this man feels the way that he feels. Not to mention, he might not know this, but we did see that episode where Marsau tried to play Courtney and say, you know, this is funny when Courtney tried to call him out for the way he handled his wife and was getting into women's business. Marsau had the nerve to sit up there and say, I find that ironic that you're saying this, being that you're in hair care industry for women. So that's very belittling. I just don't see how Maurice doesn't understand why these people wouldn't want to work with Marsau. And let's be very clear, Maurice is Marsau's brother. Good, bad, or indifferent, he's always going to support his brother, and he's definitely not going to say anything in front of anybody else if he doesn't agree with Marsau and how he's acting. He's one of those type of people I could see that would pull him to the side and be like, yo, that's not cool, but he definitely wouldn't go after him in front of this other group. That's how I see it. Moving on to Kimmy inviting Nell to her office so she can tell her that they had this meeting about the Black Expo and she didn't invite her because she felt like it should have been a meeting with the people that actually attended. My thing with this is you already sat there and heard this woman have something to say about Tisha inviting her to the Black Expo and then not following up and making sure that she was there type of thing, right? And to have run a successful business here in Huntsville for 30 years. And Kimmy was like, well, what does that mean? Girl, that means a lot. That means that she has something that she can impart to you. What do you mean? What does that mean? That means that she has the experience, that she has staying power in that community. That's something that y'all are trying to get to. Because as far as I see, none of y'all have really arrived, okay? You haven't. The only person who's really doing stuff off of the show like that, in my opinion, from what I see, is Mel. So maybe you can take some nuggets that Miss Nell has to share with the rest of you guys. I feel like Kimmy gets very defensive when someone says something that she doesn't like. And it's just like, girl, sometimes you just need to sit and listen, okay? Because everybody's not trying to come for you. We want to talk about how Tisha was defensive with the feedback from the Black Expo. Could you imagine the way Kimmy sometimes carries herself if they wanted to sit down and tell her something? Let's move on to the last part of this episode with Martell and Nell's husband. I think his name is Chris. And then Martell's business partner. So the gist of this conversation basically is Chris is still trying to get Martell up out of that house because he's trying to sell that house for his clients. And Martell has asked for 2 weeks. I don't really know at this point how long it's been since their initial conversation when he asked for the 2 weeks. But what I do know is he's still asking for this man to get up out of that property. And I just don't understand what Martell's issue is. Sir, find another place to live. You can't live here no more. And stop taking advantage of your friend. That's just not cool. You know better than that. Also they discussed Marsau, and Martell got really hot about Marsau conversation. This was the first that Martell had heard Marsau really trying to downplay Melody and her accomplishments. Hear this now from Chris. So he really felt a certain type of way, which I don't blame him. And he really got hot and heavy about what Chris was telling him. And he basically talked about how he and Melody put Marceau on, and how basically they plucked him out of that movie theater job where he was wearing suits that were way too big, and helped him get to the place that he is right now. That was the end of the episode. I do believe everything that Martell was saying. I have heard before from both he and Melody how they helped Marceau. And I just think, let's be real, Marceau would not have this platform if it wasn't for Mel and Martell. So he should be appreciative. You guys share your opinion about this week's episode, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.